We have to run through every tariff and minimize the pain for Canadians, maximize the pain for Americans.
Since the start of the election campaign on Sunday, today is probably the biggest day with the most shocking news. Auto tariffs are now in full effect. America's putting 25% auto tariffs on Canada. Canada plans on retaliating. But you remember not too long ago, I called the Premier of Ontario the fat pig Doug Ford with rabies because he was going around LARPing as some badass guy, pretending to want to shut off the power to 1.5 million homes in America, affecting more than 2 to 3 million people in America. Well, he's doing it again. He's the fat pig with ultra rabies because his literal words are, we're going to inflict as much pain to Americans as we possibly can. So we're taking a look at that. Of course, that's absolutely bonkers. I don't condone that behavior at all. But also, what I do condone is Pierre Poilievre's TFSA increase. That's like the best part, one of the best parts of Canada. And there's not too many, but one of the best parts about Canada is our investments. Tax-free savings account. You can put money into a investment account. You have a contribution limit, and that can grow tax-free. It's phenomenal. Now, I know a lot of people have difference in finances. Some people can contribute, some people can't. But an increase in your TFSA contribution is absolutely great. So we're going to dissect that, and I'm going to give my opinion on that because I think that there's a few amendments that Pierre should be making to that policy. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And there's a little bell icon. If you could just do us a favor, click and tap that so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. That would be incredible. And if you want to show off your pride for this election, then you can certainly do so by clicking the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. Lawn signs, folks. Never in my life did I think we'd be selling lawn signs, but here we are. They are flying off the shelves, almost completely sold out. There's also Canada First hats, embroidered, super high quality, and stickers. There's hoodies, there's shirts, there's a whole whack of different things. And if you use code SAVECANADA during the duration of this election, you will get yourself 20% off. But keep in mind, all this election merch, the moment it's done and over with, it's off the shelves. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Starting off with Jagmeet Singh. We're not going to take a look at much of what Jagmeet says, but we're going to start off with him.
Today, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is taking his campaign to Windsor, Ontario. But that isn't where he was planning on spending his day. His campaign team made a last-minute decision to pivot their plans after U.S. President Donald Trump moved to impose new tariffs on foreign autos. So instead of spending the day here in London, Ontario, Jagmeet Singh and all of those covering his campaign will be getting on the bus and heading to the epicenter of Canada's auto sector. There, Jagmeet Singh has plans to meet privately first with Unifor leadership. He will then make an announcement at a union hall, and then Jagmeet Singh plans to go to Stellantis, where he will attend a shift change at the gates of that plant. This is a clear decision from the NDP to try to meet the moment of the day. After yesterday, Jagmeet Singh faced a series of questions about missing the opportunity to do just that while in Hamilton, Ontario. I was one of the reporters.
So Jag preys on union workers. He loves to go after union workers and promise them all these false hopes. And so that's what he's going to be doing with every single person that works in the auto industry. He's going to try to scoop up those votes and promise, elect me, and I will make sure that even if you guys do get fired, that you're going to have other employment and income assistance in the meantime, right? That's guaranteed his platform.
Asking Jagmeet Singh last night when he was reacting to Trump's latest tariff salvo if he thought he missed the moment and if he would be making changes to his itinerary today. In response, he called the situation heartbreaking, noting he did spend time as a child in Windsor, Ontario, and knows firsthand what it's like when those union workers and those auto workers lose their jobs. He said Canada needs to fight back like hell. Later, at a campaign event, he restated that message, and he was backed there by steel workers and Unifor members. And speaking to one of them last night. He was asked, do you think Jagmeet Singh should be spending more time on this campaign, meeting with workers? And he said he thought that would be a great idea because what he is hearing on the plant floor is that they are concerned. So we will be following Jagmeet Singh's campaign throughout the evening. Of note, Liberal leader Mark Carney has took his campaign back to Ottawa for a Canada-US cabinet committee. Certainly, we are expecting the issue of Donald Trump's latest trade salvo to be the dominating conversation in the questions Jagmeet Singh faces later today.
Yeah, I mean, all politicians, all candidates for prime minister are going to be facing an insane amount of questions and pressure on how they are going to be handling these tariffs. But now let's switch away from Jagmeet and take a look at Pierre Poilievre and this amazing, incredible news about the TFSA. Here we go.
Something is backwards. When greedy globalist corporate insiders profit by moving money out of Canada, they avoid paying Canadian tax. But when patriotic Canadians invest in our country, they pay more. Throughout their 10 years in power, the Liberals have raised taxes and blocked pipelines and other projects, pushing $500 billion of investment out of Canada to the U.S., making us weak and helpless against President Trump. As Trudeau's economic advisor, Mark Carney pushed for higher taxes in Canada while his company invested in American coal. He opposed Canadian pipelines while he bought pipelines in the Middle East. And just days after President Trump threatened us with tariffs to take our jobs, Carney announced his company would move its headquarters and jobs out of Canada to Trump's hometown of New York. Enough. Instead of rewarding people for taking jobs and money out of Canada, we need a tax cut for those who bring it home. So today, I'm announcing the next step in my Bring It Home tax cut. Introducing the Canada First TFSA top-up. A common-sense conservative government will let Canadians contribute an extra $5,000 to tax-free savings account for investments in Canadian companies.
Okay, so I'm going to stop them right there. I think this is a phenomenal idea. However, it's a little bit flawed. So for the conservative team, if you guys are watching this, amendments to this, here's my suggestions. Leave the TFSA alone because it's hard. It's very difficult. It's self-regulated in order to say, well, your regular TFSA contribution can be in American or Canadian, but the new top-up can strictly only be in Canadian, $5,000 a year. That's going to be very difficult and very murky to regulate. My suggestion would be a TFCS, tax-free Canadian savings account, okay? Just a completely different account that is 100% tax-free, identical to the TFSA, just under a new name. Started off with $10,000 contribution limit right off the hop with a $5,000 increase every single year. That would be phenomenal. And then that way, under that vessel, the brokers, banks can regulate and turn off the ability to buy American stocks or convert into American funds. It's way more logistically common sense. Like that makes way more sense. And I, for one, think that this is phenomenal. I know it's super hard times with everybody living paycheck to paycheck. People can't afford homes. Groceries are so expensive. Gas, the price of everything is so ridiculously expensive. But you still have to move forward. We can't just not do something about it. And giving people more opportunities to try and save as a tax-free growth is phenomenal. And investing in Canadian, forcing Canadians to invest in the Canadian market, I think is awesome. We don't have the same growth potential that the S&P 500 does, that American growth stocks do. However, our energy sector, our finance sector ain't half bad. They have pretty decent dividends. They're pretty stable, and that would inject billions of dollars into our economy. So that's my 2 cents. Pierre's team, write it down, make amendments, and then get back with something that makes a little bit more sense logistically. But we're going to move on here and take a look at Pierre's response to the tariffs.
The unjustified and unprovoked tariffs that President Trump has now announced against our auto sector. These tariffs will damage his workers and his economy, just as they will damage ours. We must retaliate and target goods and services that we don't need, can buy elsewhere, or make ourselves to maximize the impact on the Americans while minimizing the impact on ourselves. But before I go any further about these unjustified tariffs and how we're going to respond to them, let me speak to the workers in the auto sector. You're afraid right now. You're anxious. You wonder how you're going to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. You're thinking about the conversations you may need to have with your little children about whether they can register for next year's hockey or this summer's soccer. You don't know if you'll be able to stay in the same city or what's going to happen to your future. Canada will be there for you. We will be there for you. We will ensure that you have income replacement to put food on the table and money in your bank account. We'll make sure that businesses directly affected will have the liquidity they need to get through this dispute. And we will unite as Canadians to protect our affected sectors. But more than that, we need to become strong, self-reliant, sovereign, so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to the Americans. What is clear is that 10 years of economic weakness have made us more reliant than ever on the Americans. 75% of our exports go to one country. Almost all of our energy, most of our raw materials go south because we can't get them anywhere else. We need to take drastic action to build an economic fortress in Canada, able to reach other markets around the world, repealing the anti-pipeline law, rapidly building LNG liquefaction plants, mines, factories, expanding and making our ports functional so that we can move our goods to other places around the world, knocking down the barriers between our provinces so that we can trade with ourselves for a change. Passing a bring it home tax cut on work, investment, home building, and energy to make this the best place in the world to bring back the $500 billion that Liberals pushed out of the country over the last decade. Then and only then will we be able to properly stand up to the Americans and stand up for ourselves. Now is not a time for weakness. Now is not a time to continue on with the failures that got us into this place of dependency. Now is the time to take back control and relaunch our economy so that we can confront the president's unjustified threats and tariffs in a position of strength. We will do this for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change.
Now that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a leader worth following. Pierre Poilievre knows what to say, knows how to handle the situation, and he's been preparing his entire life for this moment right now. Not just to lead Canada and bring us to being a prosperous country, but to navigate all of these, intra-provincial trade barriers, all of the turmoil and turbulence with America and all other countries, I almost said companies, all other countries that have beef with Canada, essentially. And I, for one, am absolutely on board with the Conservative train. Except when it comes to Ontario Conservatives, specifically Doug Ford. Here's what he had to say about tariffs. This video, ladies and gentlemen, is literally called Ford Vows to Inflict as Much Pain as Possible on the U.S. Let me just give that a freaking downvote. This is nuts, man. This guy is nuts. The fat pig with rabies, ultra rabies mentality. I got to say that or else I'm going to end up on the news again.
And it's going to drop. It's dropping today. The market's going to dive down on April the 2nd because there's no certainty. There's no certainty for the American people. And they're going to realize that. And I always say our number one ally are the American people. So it looks like we're back at it again. I just want to see exactly what he's preparing for April 2nd. As he says, he's doing the global tariffs around the world. In the same sentence, he says he's going to be very nice to his allies. Well, let's see how nice he's going to be. So we'll be prepared, and we'll convene the FMM, and I'll be speaking to the Prime Minister as we move forward over the next few days, as well as I spoke to him today.
Are you ready to do the electricity tariffs at this point?
Well, what I
Export tax?
yeah, what I want to see, I want to see where he's coming from on April the 2nd. I want to take a Team Canada approach. I do not want to hurt other provinces on that, but I can assure you one thing: we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible
Oh my
to
goodness.
the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. And that's the reason we've done 2 rounds of 30 billion and 30 billion.
Look, man, being Canadian, being pro-Canadian, being a Canadian patriot does not mean being anti-American, even in times like this right now. That's not to say that we need to defend Trump's tariffs, right? Because it's getting out of hand. I'll be honest, right? It's getting absolutely out of hand. I don't like what Trump is doing. But saying you're going to inflict as much pain as possible, dude, this is the news. You're not saying this in a private room. American governors, American senators, the American president's going to see this. This is ridiculous. You just went to the White House and spoke with an American official, and now you're talking like this? It's so bizarre. And he doesn't have the same oomph. He doesn't have the same hop in his step when he's saying this. So I just feel like they're just blank words. Look at him. He looks scared. He knows what's coming, right? I believe after the last time he threatened America the way he did, that America pulled him aside, an American official, and said, hey, buddy, you do that one more time and you're going to find out. And after that, you saw him like a dog with his tail between his legs, right? Just scared little pup. And now look at him. He's issuing threats and he looks scared to death. He's going to get what's coming to him, man. This guy is nuts.
And the last 65 billion, it will hurt. I'll be very, very frank, but I've talked to a tremendous amount of people going to events, and I'm very transparent by saying we have 2 options here. We either roll over as a country, and he runs us over 15 times and gets what he wants, or we feel a little bit of pain, and we fight like we've never fought before. I prefer the latter. I believe in fighting, and we'll have a big impact on the American people. He thinks, all he's doing is hurting the American people. He thinks the cost is going to go down for automobiles in the U.S. It's the total opposite. The costs are going to go skyrocketing. It keeps calling out countries. He's really pointing us out for the most part. Ontario, 50% of the parts within the vehicles are American. And, how do you dissect? They were showing me drawings today of all the different parts from all over the world, by the way, that goes in one vehicle. A lot are Canadian parts. A lot of Canadian companies they have plants down in the U.S. I understand they have approximately 127 plants employing over 50,000 people directly. So let's see how they can dissect it. I find it very, very difficult to believe that they can dissect every single part in an automobile by April the 2nd, or will be implemented on April the 3rd.
When you say dollar-for-dollar tariffs, does that mean Canada would implement 25% tariff on U.S. automobiles coming in?
Well, first of all, thank you, Richard. Something, I really want to sit down with the rest of the premiers. I don't want to speak on behalf of all the premiers without sitting down with them and without getting into it a lot deeper with the Prime Minister. That 65 billion of tariffs that we have on the table that we can launch towards the U.S., we have to run through every tariff and minimize the pain for Canadians, maximize the pain for Americans. And I feel terrible for the Americans, but
that's nuts.
It's one person, it's President Trump, that's creating this chaos, as I call it.
Have you been having any conversations with the heads of these auto companies? Have they given Ontario any reassurance that they will remain in Ontario and not pick up stakes and move to the U.S.?
I have talked to a lot of the leaders of these auto companies. A lot changes, as you know, over a 4 or 5 day period. I'll request another meeting with all the Canadian CEOs, presidents of the auto sector, be it General Motors and Ford and Stellantis, Toyota and Honda, and also speak to Volkswagen on their production facility in St. Thomas.
In your meetings with Ladnick and with the
Yes.
officials of the U.S. Trade Representative, was there not an agreement that there would be no surprises, there would be some sort of heads up? Did you get any indication that this was coming today, or is it impossible to get heads up when the
Yeah,
guy
it's-
the President of the United States?
Well, you answered my question. You're bang on 100% that we thought we'd be informed. The word "no surprises" came up in the meeting, and sure enough, well, there's a surprise. I can't predict, or I honestly believe the American administration some days can't predict what President Trump's going to say. So he's come out early now and said these are going to be implemented on April the 2nd. You know, I always believe the day he calls, what day does he call that on April the 2nd? Liberation. Okay, so President Trump's calling it Liberation Day. I call it Termination Day for American workers. I know, President Trump likes telling people you're fired. I didn't think he meant auto workers in the U.S. when he said that.
What could this
Trump,
job...
though, on that,
Yes.
has repeatedly said that in the end, in the long term, this is going to be better for the U.S. economy. So what do you say to that?
Well, I don't know how he can think it's going to be better. He can't flick on a switch and create an auto plant overnight. We buy, over 400% more cars than Mexico. Mexico's producing probably 300 to 400% more than we're producing. It ranges from 1.3 to 1.4 million, and Mexico's well over 3.5 million. And God only knows what sort of parts are in their cars. A lot are coming over from China and slapping that "Made in Mexico" sticker. So we buy as many cars off the U.S. as we sell down there. And again, I do not understand for the life of me how he thinks, when you put on a 25% tariff, how Americans aren't going to feel the pain. Because I'll encourage the Prime Minister to target American cars as well. That's what we're going to focus on. And all of a sudden, over a certain period of time, a lot of these large auto manufacturers here in Canada are stockpiling parts. So once that runs out, you'll see possibly assembly lines shut down in both countries simultaneously.
When it comes to economic stimulus, will
Yes.
that be ready on the 2nd of April, or do you think
Yes.
you have to wait?
No, I believe it'll be ready. I won't speak for the Prime Minister. He has mentioned a few numbers, and again, I'd rather him speak for the plan that he has, but we'll be ready.
What about provincially, the billions of dollars that you've promised as well for companies to draw down from? Will that be ready on April 2nd?
Well, we'll see what sectors that are hit the hardest, and we'll allocate a lot of those funds to the sectors that are hit the hardest, be it auto or anything else. And this is the tough part of negotiating with President Trump, not directly, but through Secretary Lutnick, is you don't know what's coming from day to day. You have to brace yourself, get ready, read and react. But I'm confident with all the premiers in Canada. I'm confident with the federal government right now that we'll retaliate appropriately, and we'll hit them as hard as we possibly can.
Do you think he's doing this?
And we're going to inflict, we're going to inflict as much pain as we possibly can on America, he likes to say. I mean, this guy is out of control. Doug Ford needs to stop these threats. Look, it's one thing, it's all about optics when it comes to this stuff. It's one thing to get into retaliatory to the reciprocal tariffs. But saying you're purposely wanting to inflict pain on American citizens, I haven't heard America say, we're going to squeeze Canadian citizens so they come crying to America. I haven't heard that. I've never once heard that. This is a government v. government thing that we, the citizens, pay. We're paying our share, and American citizens are paying their share. It's a bunch of malarkey. I don't agree with it, but purposely trying to hurt American citizens and during an election campaign, this is what people are voting for. There's actual people out there, Canadians, that are going to be voting Liberal because they want to hurt American citizens. It doesn't make any sense at all. This entire branding for these tariffs and our politicians' response is so idiotic and so irresponsible. starting to turn Canadian citizens against American citizens when this is a government shakedown, it doesn't make any sense. So just be very mindful and careful when you're consuming this type of content. You're actually paying attention to the underlying message that these people are freaking nuts. They're nuts, and they just want to blow up the entire system. That is the end of the video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to this channel. Turn post notifications on so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.